Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are diving headfirst into the seriously competitive world of text-to-image generative AI. This landscape is literally evolving daily. We are way past the novelty phase now, and we're getting into some serious, real-world application. I am absolutely pumped to unpack all these latest capabilities for you.
So, if you've been following the creative tech space, you already know the heavyweights, right? We've got Midjourney, DALL-E, Stable Diffusion, Adobe Firefly, and they are all battling it out for a spot in your workflow. But let's take a step back and reframe how we look at this. The real question isn't just, which tool objectively wins overall. The far more interesting question, and what we're really focusing on today, is what does each tool do better than the other tools? Because as we'll see, their setups and use cases are completely different.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. The generative AI revolution. 2. Understanding diffusion technology. 3. The ultimate tool showdown. 4. Core creative applications. And 5. The future of creativity. Let's get to it.
Section 2. Understanding diffusion technology, sculpting from noise. So at the absolute core of all these major platforms is something called diffusion technology. And the best way to think about it is like sculpting from noise. Imagine, instead of starting with a pristine blank canvas, the AI actually starts with total chaos, just visual static. Then, based entirely on your prompt, it systematically reverses that noise. It's literally chiseling away the rough pixels to reveal the high-fidelity masterpiece that was hidden inside all along.
It's a two-step dance, really. The training phase actually relies on adding noise to an existing image. But the generative magic, the part that you and I interact with, is reversing that whole process. It takes your text description and translates it into strict mathematical instructions that strip away that static layer by layer until exactly what you visualized suddenly appears.
Moving on to Section 3, the ultimate tool showdown, choosing your superpower. Now, what's really fascinating about this current landscape is how clearly it divides up the playing field. There really isn't one single undisputed champion here. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a digital tool belt, where every single platform has its own distinct superpower. Midjourney completely rules aesthetics, DALL-E 3 handles your complex instructions, Stable Diffusion gives you ultimate customization, and Adobe Firefly provides commercial safety. So let's break down exactly what each one does better than anyone else out there.
First up, we have Midjourney. Think of this one as the aesthetic artist. Look, if your main goal is pure visual impact, this is 100% your tool. Midjourney is virtually unmatched when it comes to producing incredibly high quality, highly artistic, and just stunningly photorealistic images. What it does better than the rest of the pack is understand and apply this really strong sense of mood and overall aesthetic appeal. You don't have to fight the prompter to make something look, say, cinematic or moody. That artistic flair, it's just baked right into its DNA.
And that brings us to a really brilliant contrast with OpenAI's DALL-E 3, which we can call the accurate brainstormer. See, while Midjourney gives you this gorgeous, vibey interpretation, DALL-E 3 is all about precision. It's engineered to follow your complex instructions to the letter. If you need 3 very specific objects placed in exact locations in the frame, DALL-E 3 is the one that actually listens to you. Plus, it has this deep integration right into ChatGPT, so you can have a natural, conversational brainstorming session with the AI to tweak and perfect your prompt before you even generate the final image. It's a huge time saver.
Let's shift gears to our third tool, because this one brings a totally different kind of value to the table. This is Stability AI's Stable Diffusion, or as I like to call it, the customizable mechanic. Honestly, this is the hacker's choice. Unlike the other tools that are kind of locked away in a browser or a chat app, Stable Diffusion is totally open source. What it does better than anyone else on this list is ultimate flexibility. You can run it locally, right on your own machine, which gives you absolute fine-tuned control over every single parameter of the generation process. So it really all comes down to understanding your end goal, right? And that brings us to Adobe Firefly, the commercial safe bet. Now, if you are a business owner, a marketer, or a professional designer, legal risk is a massive deal. Adobe Firefly's absolute superpower is that it was built from the ground up specifically for commercial safety. It's uniquely trained entirely on licensed data, like Adobe stock, which means you don't have to sweat over copyright infringement when you use its outputs for your brand. And on top of all that, it's built directly into the creative workflows you're probably already using, seamlessly integrating straight into Photoshop and Illustrator.
All right, Section 4, Core Creative Applications, Putting AI to Work.
The real power of all this tech lies in how we actually apply it day to day. So beyond your standard text-to-image generation, we've got image-to-image, which is amazing for rapid iteration on visual assets you already have. Then there's inpainting and outpainting. Basically, this is intelligent generative fill. It gives you the power to seamlessly alter, add, or just erase specific elements within a really complex scene. And finally, stylization. This lets you completely change the visual genre of a photo in seconds. You could translate a standard architectural shot into, say, a highly stylized concept render without ever having to start from scratch.
And finally, Section 5, the future of creativity, beyond the blank canvas. When you look at the big picture, it really boils down to this core truth. Text-to-image models use deep learning to create, edit, or transform images from written descriptions. I know, it sounds super simple when you say it like that, but the implications are massive. Just by typing out a sentence, these models have fundamentally shattered the traditional technical barriers to creating high-quality art. The blank canvas isn't this intimidating technical obstacle anymore. It's instantly filled by the AI based purely on your conceptual ideas. Which leaves us with a pretty massive question. As these tools, with their mind-blowing ability to generate photorealism, brainstorm concepts, give us endless customization, and safely integrate into our professional workflows, as they completely eliminate the barrier to making high-quality images, what actually becomes the true role of the human creator? If the mechanical execution is totally handled by the machine, maybe human creativity is no longer about mastering the brushstrokes. Maybe it's entirely about the vision, the taste, and the ideas we choose to prompt. Definitely something to chew on. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this breakdown helps you choose the absolute perfect AI tool for your next big project.